Our forefathers believed that all persons were created equal, and that freedom is a treasured right of all. Within the memory of most of us, we spend our youth to religious people whose bringing to them that which we hold dear for ourselves. We gathered before a moving wall, bear the names of those who gave their lives. We have come to dedicate it not only those whose names are inscribed there, but also to those living, broken of body and tortured of mind. They fought, not always knowing who was friend and who was foe. They fought in their hours of need. It is for us to give them the honors they so richly deserve. Also to dedicate ourselves to proposition that our nation shall always be free, that our youth shall never again be called upon to lay their bodies upon all the wars we dare not win, or sacrifice for those not yet ready to be truly free. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, rifle squad, fire 3 volleys. Commander David Spradling gives the benediction.
Almighty and everlasting God, who hath made it possible for us to be in this place, remembering those who have served this great land of ours, making it possible, the music, the flowers, the sense of dedication which has been revealed in this place. Our Father, we lift up our hearts in joy that we are citizens of a great land, and it is with a sense of new dedication is not lost in service to our country. Now may His Divine Majesty, Father, Son,
The point was, forward.
Well, everyone, there you are. That's it for today. We've had some nice things said today. Tom, thank you for your words. And General Kaplan, right on. And Homer Dickerson, couldn't have been said finer, Homer. Thank you. A couple of thanks before we leave, especially to Jim Price and Rhonda Ford of Pierce Brothers and their staff. Also to Reuben and his men here at Pierce Brothers, they did a great job. We'd like to thank Westlake Plaza Hotel for the room accommodations for the men who accompany the wall. We'd like to thank the City of Thousand Oaks, who is our co-sponsor for the display of the wall. Also the cities of Agora Hills and Westlake Village for their assistance in our production today. The 40th Mech Infantry Band did a great job. Let's hear it for the band. Also, Bob Simoneau at Printmasters, the Public Affairs Office at Point Mugu, the Pacific Missile Test Center. Also, Corey Lister, Lister Equipment Rentals. Jay Pryor at Pryor Electric. And also Southern California Edison, who provided the wire for our electrical hookups today. Mike Horowitz at Mike's Tire Service for his invaluable service. Especially Bud Glickman. Bud, thank you. And you, everyone sitting out there, our beloved community. I'd like to acknowledge also Steve Rubenstein, the president of our Chamber of Commerce, sitting up here in the front. Also Gary Joseph and the Canal Valley Diplomats. You see them in their blue jerseys and white pants and red ties today. Thank you for being here, Gary. I want to thank Miss Westlake Village and special remembrance and special thankfulness to the family of Louis Seguin, missing in action, South Vietnam. Our vigil will continue for the rest of the day. There are still some times available, and I'm sorry I don't remember it. Thank you for being here. We have 2 more ceremonies to come this week. One on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. We call it our Salute to Vietnam Veterans. And although today seemed like a salute to Vietnam WMIA, and we invite you to join us on that day for some special things at 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning. The final ceremony and closing ceremonies for the display of the wall will be on next Sunday, November the 16th. Begins at 4 o'clock p.m. It'll be a candlelit ceremony. Where you see flags ringing in the park today, you'll see luminarios on next Sunday. Candlelit, quieter in tone than we saw today, perhaps a little more sensitive. We'll also be doing something extra special on that closing ceremonies, and we'll be reading the names of those veterans that have been submitted to our post to be acknowledged publicly for their service and for their dedication and for their commitment and in many cases for their sacrifice. We're still accepting names to be read aloud at that ceremony. Veterans living or deceased, special people to you and they're special people to us. And the wall is behind you. Thank you.
What's it say?
I haven't seen that.
Legal message.
Check out Lana Park.
Time now, not later, to say welcome home and thank you for a job well done under rotten conditions. We have turned our heads away from those who gave comfort to the enemy, and then we accepted them. Is it not time to honor and offer the thanks and the gratitude of a grateful nation to the men and women who disrupted their lives to protect our peace and the peace of our country? Ladies and gentlemen, won't you please rise and give thanks to those men and women? For missing what he is trying to do. His immediate objective, his career objective, is to liberate the Indians for heroism and achievement, including 3 Silver Stars, 2 Legion of Merits, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Soldier's Medal, 8 Bronze Star V's, 26 airman instruments with over 3,000 hours, and he is a 6th-degree black belt. He is an underwater demolition and salvage diver, for the Army. He is a master parachutist. He has made over 750 jumps. He is an Army Ranger, a Pathfinder, a combat infantryman. He is also a member of the Army Special Forces as an instructor in Special Warfare School, unconventional guerrilla warfare, and air and amphibious operations. And so I think the introduction to this gentleman may be longer than his speech, and I certainly hope not. In the event the Colonel is not here as yet, is Mrs. Greitz here, Mrs. Claudia Greitz. I presume they're both a bit late.
Yes, everyone enjoys a promotion every now and then. Just like to take a moment or two. We're kind of stalling if you haven't figured that out. Bo Greitz is overdue, and we're expecting him momentarily. We were expecting him about a half an hour ago. He's out of the country. We're hoping that he'll arrive before the end of our ceremonies today. In any event, we have to do some coordination with our overflight that's being done by the Condor Association. 6 aircraft, propeller-driven type, and they'll be coming over, if I'm not mistaken, Bob, is that correct, from my rear across that way? And then they're going to do the missing man formation and up and out. Okay. So we're going to be coordinating that, and we'll just kind of interrupt whatever's going to be happening at that time in order for that to work out well. But I'd just like to take a moment and just thank you for coming out here today. We have a lot of TV coverage today. We're very pleased and very proud to have the network news here, as well as the local stations. And for your information also, we have our own local station, if you want to call it that, Store Cable TV. They're taping the program today, and they'll be rebroadcasting that, or for broadcast, I should say, this afternoon at 5:30 on Channel 8. So if you happen to miss some of their proceedings today, 5:30, Channel 8, it'll be on once more for you to look at. The thing that we're trying to promote here today is the Vietnam veteran. Now, Bob, what's the situation with our aircraft? We're told that they're 7 minutes out yet. Bud, how is your soft share?
As Forrest mentioned, we have set up a communications link to the wall to a Vietnam veteran in Washington, D.C., and you will be hearing it through these microphones. The cage that you see in the center here was a cage that the local veterans used in the recent Conejo Valley Days parade, and it was one of the, in fact, I believe it took first prize with the balance of the float that was used. We have another.
We have over 2,400 men missing in action still in Southeast Asia. Our president says even now they may still be serving. We give them that recognition that they deserve.
Look in the back.
official who served in the Vietnam War, I feel a special responsibility to keep that war in the American consciousness and to continue to remind people that my fellow veterans came home. There were no marching bands to greet us. There were no welcoming parades. There was no preferential treatment. We received the chilliest reception ever accorded American veterans returning from a foreign war. And I promise you I will not rest until every homeless veteran is off the street, until every prisoner of war is returned, until every person listed as missing in action is accounted for. I think that is my special.
A few moments ago, I was handed a handwritten letter, note from a gentleman who is a Vietnam veteran, and I would like to read both items on it. The Vietnam Moving Wall remembers and thanks those Vietnam veterans who have fallen for their country, and it is a well-appreciated step in the needed direction for those of us who came back alive. The following prose and poems
We have a man on the telephone at this moment in Washington, D.C. at the wall.
Here? I'm here.
Terrific. Listen, we're here at Thousand Oaks, California. Where are you?
I'm in Washington, D.C., between the Lincoln Memorial and the National Vietnam Veterans Memorial, talking to you from a payphone standing in a pouring rainstorm. And incredibly, there's still a tremendous crowd here at the wall, but the rain has been pouring all day. I think the people who have come here to show their representatives, and that was the funded leaders, that we place a very high priority on the resolution of this problem, and we are becoming growingly frustrated with their seeming inability to obtain any real progress.
Well, John, we agree with you. Our weather's about as bad as yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have
No,
it's
second
Forrest
47.
once
Oh,
again
that's right.
we're
Yeah.
make some
I started out
additional
in
presentations.
Beer can,
Prior
me
to
too.
that, I would like to introduce
Yeah.
Miss Caneo Valley.
Yeah, well, where were they?
Leave us for a
Oh, we
minute,
built
please.
Dogtown.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
When they took us some beer cans from here.
Yeah.
I once had a colonel say to me that I had to have eyes in the back of my head not to be shot down, and I didn't, and I was.
You were down there right when they started to build.
Yeah, there was nothing. They just dropped us
We
off.
have, the
convoy
VFW
from beer
Post
cans.
has the pleasure of
the
presenting
dredges are out in the
two
river.
Yeah.
POW flags
I
this
pulled
morning.
guard duty on one.
One is going to be given to Miss Pat Allen.
Served in the Vietnam War or who has served in any war. I'd like you to know, as a member of the youth community, that the youth of this nation are behind you 100%, and that it is us whose pride you are maintaining, and I appreciate we as a whole appreciate the efforts that you're doing for us by keeping our nation's pride and by keeping our nation strong. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I once again have the pleasure of introducing Patricia Huffschmidt, who's going to sing God Bless America.
So please, by all means. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean. Home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Let's bring them home. Closing remarks are going to be made by Captain Forrest Fields, and then after the closing remarks, I would appreciate your staying for the benediction by the Reverend Dr. Robert Boss. Forrest?
Take care, man.
I'd like to read a short piece, a condensation actually, from the book To Heal a Nation. The piece has a title. It's called There's Billy. Talks about the wall and what the wall is. Maya Lin, the designer of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, was born in 1959, the year of the first official American combat casualty in Vietnam. She was 9 years old when the Tet Offensive occurred. She cared nothing about politics and knew little about the war in Vietnam. She had grown up in Athens, Ohio, where her parents settled after fleeing mainland China in 1949. She designed the memorial to be a passionate psychological site. It was never meant to be happy or cheerful, but to bring out in people the realization of loss and to begin a cathartic healing process. Many people are afraid of the emotion of loss. It's something that we as a country have glossed over. Many vets go to the wall alone. They are afraid they'll hate it and afraid of the memories that it'll bring back. The smells, the filth, the horror, the loneliness, the sadness. After seeing the wall, however, they need each other. They gather in little groups. Men who are strangers cry together. Many hug. You have to touch the wall, they say to each other. They have never before been more strong or more fragile. Promises to friends that they would never be forgotten have been kept on the wall. Really. They always touch the names. Their fingertips trace out each letter. Lips say a name over and over, and perhaps stretch to kiss it. Perhaps by touching, people regain a sense of life, or perhaps they finally come to peace with death. We're with you, they say. We'll never forget. Over 5 million people visited the Vietnam Veterans Memorial during the first 2 years of its life. It is the most visited memorial in Washington, D.C. On some days, over 20,000 people come. Late at night, at dawn, someone is always there. It's been called the most emotional ground in our nation's capital. Maybe Vietnam veterans are forever condemned to be the most tragic of all heroes, those whose bravery was wasted. No, the memorial shouts, it must not be. The names speak to their buddies, to their wives and children, to mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, to all the politicians, to all the generals, to everyone who tries to understand. We were young, we have died, remember us. As Jan Scruggs conceived of the memorial in our nation's capital, so did Mr. John Devitt plan to construct and display a one-half-size replica of the wall that would enable the country to experience the wall in their own community. Portable, made of glistening black plexiglass panels, inscribed with a special raised white ink, the moving wall carries out the same cathartic healing as does its full-size counterpart in Washington. 70 mirror-like panels on each of 2 bases of the wall stretch over 250 feet. The names inscribed in chronological order of their dates of casualty, giving each name and those of their buddies who fell with them their own special place in history. We thank you for being out here today to see the wall. You'll see that special monument behind you. We ask you to stay after the ceremony today home. We've not seen that yet with our Vietnam veterans. We have to realize that Americans cannot be held against their wills. No human being can. Not by any group in any land. As long as there is one human being in captivity, in bondage to another, we are all held against our wills. We are here today to express our gratitude, our appreciation, and yes, our outrage that this travesty continues. The agony of the Vietnam War is not over for all of us. For many of us it is. But the agony of Vietnam for the families of the missing continues. It is today